Oh, there's someone. Sides and, oh, there we go. The boxes have been coming up very slowly. And Monica much faster because she's only 1 hour away. And Denise, Damien. Interesting. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep, can hear you.
Okay, thank you. It's like just looking at a blank page almost. People are now starting to see their faces. There's Carlos. Hello, Carlos. One of our teachers here in California, he like really encourages people to turn on their video so it's more like a Sangha. In fact, I was reading somewhere, so today's the last day of February, yeah. This period is like Sangha celebration in some Buddhist traditions. It's like festivals and so forth, celebrating Sangha. In fact, I wonder if I have that email up. No, I don't. So I heard my former Spanish teacher, who's a relatively young fella, but I guess because he is a professor, he's going to get the vaccine on Monday, get the first jab there in Madrid. So that was very encouraging. He was even surprised. It's like, wow. Okay, well, I see more, I think more squares than faces, but here they go, slow. There's Martina. It's funny, I don't know if people are just doing it slowly or it just came slowly. I'm connected to my mother's 5G, so I thought it would have been fast, but oh, you know what I forgot? I forgot my little bell. Okay, it's okay. So we will meditate, and because today will be the last day, at least this time around, that we will talk about the Noble Eightfold Path. And as many of you know, we've been on the 8th factor, the factor of samadhi. And so I thought, again, for the last 10 minutes or so of the meditation, if you're interested, I'll offer just a little guidance or a little reminder, really, about how you could use the either metta or any of the Brahma Viharas, mudita, which is sympathetic joy, or karuna, compassion, or even equanimity, as your object of meditation. And my idea is to pick whatever really just feels so beautiful to you, to your heart. Any phrase you want that really feels good. And then let that be the object of your meditation, that phrase, and then see if it provokes any sort of sensation in the body or in the heart or in the mind. Um, just it is, and it is, they are forms of concentration, samatha practice, where we can really go deep with just a phrase, may I be happy, may I be happy. Or if that's doesn't work for you, may all beings be happy, may my mother be happy, whatever really feels good to you. Or if you want to just keep using the breath or the body, that's also fine. So, since I forgot my little bell, let's see. Yeah, we'll have that bell. Okay. So, are there any questions, or anybody wants to say anything first? No? Okay. So here we go. So as a reminder, find comfortable posture and settle in. It's almost like we have our physical posture, and then we have our mental posture within that. So posturing the attention, the awareness into the present moment, using whatever helps you arrive. I like to use, although I don't always use, my body to connect to this moment, come back to the moment. A lot of times I'll just try to embrace my whole body with my attention, with my awareness, just noticing any feeling, any sensation. And if none is obvious, I'll go to places where almost for sure there'll be something, such as where the body makes contact with the cushion or the floor or the chair, the bed, those pressure points, those contact points. And just feel them, notice them. But sometimes also just by habit, I might go to the breath directly. And if you're an audio person, maybe you go to sounds, a receptive listening. Any of the sense gates, the 6 sense gates in Buddhist philosophy, can bring us into the present moment. So we become aware of touch, of feeling, of sound, of smell, of taste, of sight, if we have our eyes open, or even not. You can almost look into the back of your eyelids, or noticing thought, which is maybe the trickiest, but whatever brings you into the moment. And then incorporating, allowing in as well a sense of kindness, a sense of curiosity, a sense of compassion. As we relax into the moment, finding an object, an anchor to settle the mind, to allow the mind to stabilize, center, focus, but it's a light focus. It's not an intense focus. And then we just keep coming back as our mind wanders. We notice, we come back gently but firmly, without self-criticism, if possible, without self-judgment. And if your mind has a habit of judging or criticizing, then we just notice that. We are not that. Just try to let that go as well. Relaxing with our object, with our anchor. Calming the mind, maybe using labels, breathing in, breathing out. Or you can even gently guide your mind here, this breath, this body. Or one of my new favorites, what am I aware of right now? Or what is awareness noticing right now? Whatever works to center the mind, calm the mind. If you are experiencing a lot of stubborn thought, there are some tools or tricks you can use to help you train the mind, get the mind to settle in on the object. You could try counting the exhalations, if following the breath, up to say 5, and then back down again from 5. Doing that a few times, see if you can create that connection. Or you can simply just pay attention for the exhalation. That is making sure that you notice the exhalation. Don't worry too much about the inhalation. See if that keeps you present a little longer. Of course, thoughts will come. No matter what we do, they come. So if you are interested, maybe feeling more centered, more calm, would like to practice with or experiment with the Brahma Viharas as a samatha concentration practice, calming practice, you can just pick a phrase that really resonates with you, that you believe in, support, embrace fully, and just repeat it, letting it be your object, and then whatever arises in the mind, in the heart, in the body as a result. So it could be, may all beings be happy, or may I be happy, may I be well, may all beings be well. Or you could pick a benefactor, someone you really cherish, and may he or she be happy. Or you can stay with the breath or the body or the sounds as an anchor. Whatever works for you. So wherever your mind has been, it's quite all right. Let's return our attention to the body, regrounding the attention, the awareness into the physical form, creating that mind-body connection, that embodied awareness. And moving the attention into the heart space, which maybe is a little more obvious, a little softer if you were doing the Brahma Viharas at the end of the meditation. And thanking yourself for your practice, for taking time out on this Sunday to nurture yourself, take care of yourself in this way. And reminding yourself that this is not a selfish practice. We do it not only to care for ourselves, but for all beings. And there's probably no better way for us to care for all beings than to care for ourselves. And just imagining sending out that gratitude and that goodwill in all directions, embracing everyone on this call, embracing everyone on this planet. Thank you, everyone, for practicing with me on this Sunday and with each other. I really miss being able to do this in person, and hopefully sometime soon. I do believe that in Madrid we can, I think Nacho's doing it in some of the groups, but have as many as 10 people in one room. So that's pretty exciting. I think we're about 10 here, so we could actually be physically in the same room. So what I thought I would do is just kind of finish up the Noble Eightfold Path, this final factor, and attempt to tie it in to really the kind of practice that we follow mostly has been early Buddhist teachings, Theravada teachings, you might say, with an emphasis on insight or on wisdom. And so we often hear the word vipassana, right? And I was reading, well, first, I wanted to really just understand more about samadhi, this final factor, and other people's opinions and so forth. So from last week to this week, I did some more reading and I did some more investigating on the internet. I watched a few YouTubes and, like that. And oh my gosh, the variety of opinions that are out there was really quite astounding. Not only, within the different schools of Buddhism, and then there's the different schools of Hinduism, where, samadhi also plays a role. And as for those of you who practice yoga, you know about the 8 limbs of yoga, Patanjali's 8 limbs of yoga, of which the final one is samadhi. and that practice, they think of it as the highest form of consciousness. So it can really play a significant role in a lot of, especially Indian and Asian religions and practices. But just within our own, let's say, for instance, that we more or less follow the Theravadan Southeast Asian form of Buddhism, early Buddhism, which we find in Thailand, in Burma, and Sri Lanka, a little bit in maybe Cambodia. Or you could just go to the Thai forest tradition of Ajahn Chah and listen to the various monks of just that one tradition, and you will get different opinions about samadhi. And where it really can get, I think, varied is in the role of the jhanas, which we talked about last week, the role of absorption as a form of samadhi, as a form of concentration. And so there's really nothing I could say like, okay, this is it. This is what the Buddha said, because I don't know that we really know. There's a lot of opinions out there. And I've heard, on my retreats, which pretty much 90% of all my retreats have been with teachers who probably follow mostly the Ajahn Chah teachings, but also the Burmese Sayadaw U Pandita, for example, or even some of the Sri Lankan Bhikkhu Analayo. And drawing from them, they mostly say that jhana is not necessary to achieve nibbana, to achieve the end of suffering, or that is that absorption is not necessary, and that we can achieve freedom from suffering, cessation of suffering, through, for instance, awareness of awareness. So I'm just going to make sure I quote Tejaniya here for a second. He writes, so I get this thing, it's called the Daily Tejaniya, and it's a little quote by this Burmese monk who's still a living, teacher. And he writes, the more you focus, the less you see. And I thought that was kind of interesting, right? He's sort of saying that there's a drawback, a risk with focusing too much, too narrowly, right? That we really want to see things as they really are. And if you're too narrowed in on something, you're really not going to see things as they really are. So I'm going to sort of take that kind of position, that we don't need to experience, practice absorption in order to reach the cessation of suffering. And I read more, and I love this little book by Bhikkhu Bodhi on the Noble Eightfold Path. And so, the last few pages of the Samadhi chapter are about jhanas. He explains his view, his translation of the jhanas, and how there's the 4 rupa or material jhanas and the 4 arupa or non-material jhanas, and some of the other technical kind of characteristics about it. But then the following chapter is about the cessation of suffering, and it's about, he says that concentration alone will not get us there. That samadhi alone will not get us there. Why? He says because it doesn't put us in touch with the fundamentals of the defilements being craving, ill will, and delusion, right? Greed, hatred, and delusion. These are the core defilements of Buddhism that cause suffering. And he says with the jhanas, you're not really in touch with those things. And if you're not in touch with them, how can you learn from them? And he says the factor that cuts through the causes of suffering is wisdom. Concentration alone won't do it. Wisdom is what does it. And I'm going to just go to his book a little bit and share some of this. Hopefully I've got it up where I want it to be. A few pages down. So this is his chapter, The Development of Wisdom. Okay, so I highlighted some of the things that I thought were interesting and worth bringing up. He says, but by itself, he's talking about concentration. Concentration by itself does not suffice to reach the highest accomplishment, release from the bonds of suffering. We have to generate the insights, right? So this is the word that we've talked about a little bit, where there isn't a direct translation in Spanish. Intuition or something like that isn't really insight. Insight is seeing clearly into the true nature of something. So we're going to just use the English word insight, even if we open up an insight center in Spain. But it's also, you think of it as Vipassana. Vipassana is the practice of insight. So again, here he says, concentration does not suffice to bring liberation because it fails to touch the defilements at their fundamental level. Now the next thing I'm going to read really just fascinated me. I don't know that I'd read it, or if I had, I'd forgotten it, but how much of a psychologist the Buddha was. I mean, this guy, he was a psychologist, and, we're talking 2,600 years ago, and just how clearly and deeply he saw things. So the next thing, he says, the Buddha teaches that the defilements are stratified into 3 layers. The stage of latent tendency, the stage of manifestation, and the stage of transgression. I mean, this is really wild to me. So the latent tendency is that these defilements, greed, hatred, delusion, they're kind of always there. They're just sort of hanging out in the depths of our mind or wherever. But sometimes they don't actually manifest or get acted upon, but they're there. They're there. We all have them. It's part of being human. It's part of the survival instincts that we have, right? Greed, want, need, food, ill will, hate, aversion, don't want that saber-toothed tiger, go away, and then confusion. I mean, we're a very gullible species. We are confused a lot of the time, right? So they're always there. And the way he puts it is they lie dormant without displaying any activity. And then the second level is manifestation, right? Where, okay, the defilement comes up into the mind and there's a thought. And maybe we even believe that thought, or there's an emotion, or where there's even kind of a volition, where there's a movement towards doing something based on this defilement. And then the third one is when it actually happens, when there's an unwholesome action of body, mind, or body action or speech. So he points out that the Noble Eightfold Path, the whole thing, is broken down into 3 groups so that it can, this is my word, but attack or work against or to stop the defilements from arising. And so the concentration group, the samadhi group, which is the 4th one, right? We have our first one, which is right seeing and right intention. And then we have the moral group. And then we have the concentration group. He says, the training in concentration provides the safeguard against the stage of manifestation. So that's the second stage. But the problem really is in the latency stage, the one that's underneath it. Now, that's kind of like you might say where the roots are. And yeah, that's great if we can keep it from arising to the manifestation level, but it's still going to be there. And I know this is a lot. I was amazed just how dense this is and how thoroughly the Buddha thought this through, and of course, followers after that. So I'll read this part in that's highlighted. So he says, even though concentration may be pursued to the depths of full absorption, it cannot touch the basic source of affliction, the latent tendencies lying dormant in the mental continuum. Against these, concentration is powerless, since to root them out calls for more than mental calm. Because really, if you're just digging it, you're in absorption and you're just digging it, you're blissed out, you ain't going to do any work, really. You're just going to enjoy it. You're just going to sit there. And yeah, they won't manifest in that moment, but you ain't going to root them out. He says, what it calls for beyond the composure and serenity of the unified mind is wisdom, panya, a penetrating vision of phenomena in their fundamental mode of being. This is vipassana. This is what we do. He writes, wisdom alone can cut off the latent tendencies at their root, because the most fundamental member of the set is ignorance. Now, this is interesting because it also, Anna Monica knows, now she's there with you guys. I see her. Hi, Anna Monica. We've been, watching, because of COVID, a lot of more YouTube and stuff like that. And we've been watching a lot about Vedanta, Advaita Vedanta, which is a form of Hindu practice. And there they say, instead of having three defilements, greed, hatred, delusion, they say there's really just one, ignorance, and that the others, greed and hatred, arise as a result of ignorance. And it's almost sounding like Buddhism, even though they kind of treat them as one group of three, maybe of equal weight and power, I'm beginning to think that the original Buddhist thought was also that ignorance is the problem. That's the main one. That's the main source of our suffering. He says, wisdom alone can cut off the latent tendencies at their root, because the most fundamental member of the set, the one which nurtures the others and holds them in place, is ignorance. And wisdom is the remedy for ignorance, right? What's the opposite of ignorance? Wisdom. He writes that ignorance infiltrates our perceptions, our thoughts, our views, everywhere. We can misconstrue our experience. It can touch us in so many ways. And we're seeing this in our world today. I don't know how much in Spain or in England or Ireland or wherever you have this issue around the COVID, but there's many, many people in America who don't even believe it's real. Or they believe that it was invented by Bill Gates or by, the government or by the left or whatever. And many people don't believe that the vaccine is a good idea. Some people think that it's going to put a chip into our body so we can be tracked, not realizing that you're already being tracked very well just with your phone. You don't need a chip in your arm. These are forms of ignorance, forms of delusion, forms of confusion. And we see them in all walks of our life, right? So he says, whereas ignorance obscures the true nature of things, wisdom removes the veils of distortion. enabling us to see phenomena in their fundamental mode of being with the vivacity of direct perception. The training in wisdom centers on the development of insight, vipassana bhavana, a deep and comprehensive seeing into the nature of existence, which fathoms the truth of our being in only the sphere where it is directly accessible to us, namely in our own experience. So, well, I know that was a lot of words and so forth, but I was very pleased because I'd read this book a long time ago and I'd forgotten that it didn't end with samadhi, that he brings up this very important thing, which ties it back into the kind of practice that we mostly follow, that Chema, I know Chema's on the call with us, that he teaches vipassana, insight, seeing clearly, wisdom, because this is the antidote to our suffering. And it's not like it's a one-time, woof, oh, I had a vipassana experience and now I'm cured. It's not like that. We keep unveiling it. It's like an onion, right? And you keep peeling off the layers. Now, yeah, I got a couple more minutes. I want to add something else. So I found this kind of interesting. So with the three defilements, greed, hatred, delusion, or ignorance, it's ignorance that is the most, it is the cause or the root that is by far the most powerful towards our suffering. Okay, it's the one that if we could clean out the ignorance, if we can beat it back with wisdom, the greed and hatred, they will naturally fall away. They will naturally fall away. Now, what the Buddha also said is that there are different types of ignorance, that there also are lists. We love our lists, right? And that there's three that the Buddha said are the most important, the confusions that really get us into trouble. And we could probably guess what they are. The first one is we believe to be permanent that is not permanent, that is impermanent. This is a confusion. We think that things are permanent when in fact they are not. The second confusion or hallucination, I think he even used the word hallucination, is that we think things are satisfying when they're not satisfying. We think that they're sukha when they're dukkha, right? So the unsatisfying is satisfying. This is another hallucination. And then the third one is we think things are personal when they are impersonal. And now for this list as well, it's that third one that he said is the most important. It is the one that leads to the most amount of suffering. We think that is impersonal is personal. We take it to be personal. And of course, this is a subject that can, it's worth years of study. Can be very difficult to get our heads around, right? But he offers a way that we've got a few minutes. I'm going to give this a shot. He offers a way to see this. Okay, this is what it's about. It's about insight, it's about wisdom, it's about vipassana. How do we see that is impersonal, that is impersonal is not personal? How do we see that? And one way to do that is through the 5 aggregates. Now, we haven't talked much about them, but they are fundamental to Buddhism. And let's see, I'm going to try to put this up here for you. Share screen. Okay. Hopefully you can see what's blue there, what I've highlighted on. Okay, good. All right. So in Buddhist philosophy, all conditioned, all things that are conditioned are of one of five aggregates or heaps or khandas or skandhas in Sanskrit. They're either form, physical form, or they're sensations or feelings is a better word, vedana, pleasant, unpleasant, neutral, or their perception, how we see it, or their proliferation, their sankharas, they're the mental activity, or their consciousness. So the first one is the physical world manifestation. The others are the mental activities, of which really there's kind of two groups. There's the sankhara group and there's consciousness. So the practice is to ask yourself at each one of these levels, because so the thing we have to agree upon is that all things are either one of these five things, everything. Try to find something in your world that is outside of these five. It's really quite impossible to find, especially form just covers, everything we see and so forth. And then when you get into your head, you realize that pretty much covers it all. Vedana, perceptions, sankhara, consciousness. So now, the practice is ask yourself, are you any one of these things? Am I my body? Right? I mean, really, we think we are. We do identify with it, but when you get right down to it, we're not our bodies. Right? These are the vehicles or whatever you want to call it that our essence resides in during this lifetime. But because if it was mine, I wouldn't let it get this old. I would have stopped at like 31, but it keeps getting old. Every time I look at myself, I'm like, oh my God, what's wrong with you? But it ain't me. It's doing its own thing. We all get old. It's one of the teachings of the Buddha. Old age is unavoidable. Okay, what about sensations? Vedana. I mean, are we really pleasant or unpleasant? Our reaction to things? No. That one's pretty easy. Are we our perceptions? Well, we often think we are, but really that one too is pretty easy to see that just because we see something the way we do doesn't mean that is who we are. It might be a reflection of how our brain works, our causes and conditions or whatever, but it isn't us. Pretty easy with not too much investigation to see. And then our sankharas, our mental formations, that one might even be easier. I mean, if I was my obsessive mind, which I used to think, I used to say that I'm an obsessive person. I am me, soy este or estoy este. But when you get right down to it, my mind does its own thing. You see this in meditation, right? Thoughts just come up, dar vueltas all on its own or whatever, and we can stop, we can pull away from it because it ain't us. And then the last one, the one that is the most interesting, is this consciousness. Now, some people might think this is truly who we are. Like in the Vedanta area, they say that awareness, consciousness is our true nature, and that we are part of this infinite consciousness. But in Buddhism, we don't even go there. Consciousness just is. It just is. And it's not our true nature in the same respect as Vedanta. Another way to kind of look at this is through our definition, our Western definition of ego, right? The ego is what thinks I am these things. I am my thoughts, I am my beliefs, I am my job, I am my body. But we know also that the ego is not our true nature. It's just a part of being human. I wrote on this last thing, everything is dependent arising, dependently arising. Nothing arises by itself. There's always a cause preceding it. And with Vipassana, we start to see this, and as a result, we start to let go. like the ultimate step really is when we let go of all the factors of dependent arising, all 12, including consciousness, including the final aggregate there. Okay, I'm going to stop. It's always a risk with this because there's so many words, and so many concepts. But hopefully that wasn't overwhelming. Yeah. So is there anybody who'd like to say something or has a question or comment? I highly recommend this little Bhikkhu Bodhi book. It's only like 100 pages. It's not very long, and just so it's dense for sure, but packed with wisdom. Okay, well, either all those words were like too many, or you guys got it. You guys you're ready. I hope you're ready. Well, it's fun. So, because it's what I love about this is it gives me it forces me kind of in a way, to review, relearn, or learn, and that keeps me close to the practice, and I just love it. I just love being close to the teachings, and and even if I read something 10 years ago or whatever, sometimes I've completely forgotten it, and then I read it again. It's like, wow. And it even has a more profound impact on me sometimes because it's it's somewhere in there, and then I do it again and it's like, oh yeah. Or maybe I wasn't ready, to get it last time. And but so let's just say this is done. And if you have a question, just let me know, or a comment. But going forward, so starting, next week, I had mentioned doing the 7 factors of awakening. And we could definitely do that. But I also thought, as some of you know, there's a online course going on through the University of Zaragoza with Francisco Gable and a couple of Spaniards, and it's based on Bhikkhu Analayo's book, which is it's the third of his book. Let me make sure I get they all have similar titles, and I want to make sure I get the right title. This one. Oh yeah, okay. A practical guide. That's it. Let's see if I can. And I don't know. Whoops. Where did it go? I don't know exactly what the Spanish. I ordered it online. It takes a little while, but kind of looks like that. This is the English Kindle version. And so this is his third book on the Satipatthana, on the teachings of the Buddha about mindfulness. And this one is more about practice. The other ones were a little bit more theoretical. I think the first one was based on his PhD thesis. And this one is a little bit more about practice. And so there's a 9-week course going on online, of which 2 weeks have passed. And I signed up. I'm a little bit behind, but I'm hoping to get back on track. But I thought maybe we could kind of follow along in English for those of you who might be interested, follow along that course. So I thought maybe we'd have a vote. We'll have an election. And we won't, it'll be a winner take all, or a majority take all. And they're both, theoretically we could do both in 7 weeks, right? So you have 7 factors of awakening, and then there's 7 weeks left of this course. So it'd be like for the next 7 weeks. So of those 2 things, the 7 factors of awakening, or following along on the Bhikkhu Analio online course. So for the 7 factors of awakening, please raise your hand. Who would like to do that? Nobody. Okay. The Bhikkhu Analio course, please raise your hand. Oh, okay. Got some voters. All right. Okay. That's what we're going to do then. That's actually very good because that'll keep me, I'll be a better student of the course. Is anybody taking the course beside me? Anybody else taking it? No. It's only 2 hours a week, and I don't know if you could join, but anyways. Okay, great. Why don't we do a little metta and then we'll wrap up, okay? I'm going to set my phone here so it'll give us a buzzer. Okay. Well, thank you very much, you guys. So let's come back to our body, especially for me. Oof, after all those words. Let's really re-embody myself. Coming to the heart center. So a little metta towards myself. May I be happy. You just repeat to yourself. May I be well. May I be safe. May I live with ease. Now let's choose a benefactor, benefactora, somebody you really feel warm feelings towards, maybe look up to. Could be a public personality, the Buddha, Jesus, or maybe a family member who was always there for you. Let's offer this person or being of another kind that may you be well. May you be safe. May you live with ease. Well, let's do a person or being that we're having a little difficulty with. Maybe they did or didn't do something that hurt our feelings or said something. May you be happy. May you be well. May you be safe. May you live with ease. And lastly, all beings in all directions without exception. May all beings be happy. May all beings be well. May all beings be safe. May all beings live with ease. And finally, let's dedicate the benefits, the merits of our practice here today. Share them, dedicate them to the benefit of all beings. May all beings be happy and peaceful, healthy and strong, safe and protected. May all beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering, free from war and the causes of war. I thought about that one more and I really like that. Free from discrimination, from racism, from violence, and free from coronavirus. And may all beings find their path, their noble path towards the freedom of suffering, towards the cessation of suffering, towards liberation in this lifetime with these bodies, with these aggregates. May all beings be free. May all beings be happy. Waiting for our bell. Thank you. Thank you all very much. Is anyone wanting to stay and be in a small group for a little bit and connect? Okay, great. Thank you, Chema. Gracias por venir.
Thank you, Jim. Goodbye.
Goodbye, Javier.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, Denise. Thank you. Bye, Damien.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Paxi. Bye. Have a good day. So you can just unmute, I guess. We'll talk amongst us. Jesus, where are
There
you?
we go.
Looks like he's in an office.
Yeah.
Library.
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 Mm,
Nice.
nice. At first, I saw that ceiling and I thought, is that Saladana? Yeah. How are you, Carlos?
Fine, fine. Quite busy with work, and I miss going to Saladana and having these sessions in person, but it's good to meditate online as well.
If there were, groups there now, would you go or would you still stay home?
I went once to Nageshvara and Amalasiri session on a Tuesday afternoon, evening. But now their sessions start really too early for me. I can't get out of work in time to get there. So because they're holding their weekly sessions, but I think they start like at 6:30 p.m. and I leave work. I can leave it by 7 p.m. But until I get to Saladana, it's nearly 8 p.m. So,
Okay.
and
So
I know
going to it wasn't a problem for you.
No. So the first session they held, I think, was at 7 or 7:30, and I left the office early, and I got there. So I meditated once with them, but now they're holding their regular sessions at 6:30, and it's just too early for me to get
so
there.
early. Maybe is there another thing after or?
Not in Saladana, but I guess that's the time schedule that went well for them. You know, we had also the curfew here. Now it's back at 11 p.m., but for a while it was at 10 p.m., you know, so it was quite early.
Yeah.
And is the metro packed?
Oh, depends. So there are some rush hours, but so usually what I do on a work day is I start early mornings at home, and then I leave home towards the office at like mid-morning when the rush hour is already over, so that it's not too packed. So it really depends. On my way back, 7:30 p.m. or so. It depends. Sometimes it depends also on what wagon you're at. It's not really packed, but sometimes it's difficult to maintain the distance of 2 meters or 1.5 meters or something like that.
So there are no limitations everyone can get on and they're just wearing a mask, hopefully.
Exactly. No, mask is obligatory. So you're
Oh, okay.
so if a security personnel sees someone with their mask down or something, they'll tell them to
Mm.
wear it properly.
Mm-hmm.
Like Jesus. Jesus looks like he's got it perfectly on there.
Well, if he's in a public library or so, then it's obligatory. Anywhere
Wow.
anywhere outside of someone's home, you need to wear a mask.
So in the class on Tuesday that you went to, was everybody wearing a mask inside?
I think we were. I don't remember because it was a while back, but I think we were wearing masks. I think I didn't take mine off.
Hmm. Okay.
I don't find it doesn't hinder my meditation. I can meditate with a mask on without any problems.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Meditation shouldn't be too much problem. My problem, maybe because I have such a tall nose, but is talking. When I talk, it just try to chew or something, it just tends to keep
Yeah.
on coming down. I don't quite
I've been
that.
to some classes at the Kadampa Center in Malasaña, and they do maintain like they have the chairs set up in a way that they're not too close together.
Hmm.
And what they do is, for students, we all need to wear a mask, but the teacher, when they talk, they take off their mask, because also they do
Hmm.
video streaming of the sessions. So
Yeah.
in order for the teacher to be so that he can read the lips or whatever, it's easier. So that would be the only person not to wear a mask.
Okay. Well, that's kind of my thought for Saladana, was to get internet, get Wi-Fi or whatever,
Mhm.
and then stream it, but then also be able to have whatever the number is, 10 or so people.
So Anna Monica and Jim, you're in different places?
Different
I'm
moms.
at my
Yeah.
mom's and Jim's
I'm
at
gonna
his
go-
mom's.
Yeah. I'm going to go get her now. And then, then we'll decide whether to go back to San Francisco, or my brother is up in a mountain town that is only about, oh, you're being kicked out.
Oh, didn't know
I
there was
assume out of the
anyone.
library and
Yeah,
not
9 p.m. is 9,
out of our group.
Oh,
except for
But-
Adios,
restaurants. I think
Jesus.
everything needs to close at 9 p.m.
Oh,
So
okay.
restaurants, you're still able to go up to 10 p.m. and stay up to 11 p.m. By 11 p.m. you need to be at home because it's a curfew, unless you have the excuse of work. For instance, a restaurant worker, if he needs to shut the restaurant down, close the restaurant after 11 p.m., he has that excuse. He can go home afterwards. And you can still order home delivery until midnight, so they can deliver
Very
until
specific.
yeah.
I mean, it's
So
very detailed, but it seems like it does allow for commerce to continue and people to work.
it depends on what part of Spain. So Madrid is, despite the higher numbers due to the high population density, Madrid is quite open, let's say it that way. Other parts of Spain are more shut down, more closed down, but Madrid seems to be fairly open towards commerce and shops still being able to make a living.
I see.
Yeah,
And things are getting better. So it seems like the rates are going down again, with vaccinations and whatever, there are these waves. So now it seems like we're going down again. Let's hope that an Easter doesn't go up again. But let's see.
Right.
Fourth, that would be
April.
fourth wave, I think.
Well, yeah, but Easter is not as traditional as a family holiday as Christmas. So on Easter, maybe people would rather go whatever, skiing or on a holiday trip or whatever, which is still quite restricted where you can go to. So I suppose that the Easter wave will not be as severe as the Christmas wave was.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see. But I think that also with increasing vaccinations, it'll just get better. So I'm
Hopefully.
optimistic.
Yeah. If not for these variants, that's the thing that concerns me. Like I just read, I think it was yesterday, that there's a new variant in New York that is more contagious, than the prior, and maybe the vaccines aren't going to match up. Yeah.
Wow.
So we got to move. I think we got to move super quick to, so that there aren't hosts for the virus to keep mutating and stuff. But are the vaccines picking up per day there?
Well, yeah, as you said, so some people are getting vaccinated. I don't know exactly what the rules are. The last thing I read like a week ago or so, that there was even the the group of 45 to 60 to 55 or 60 even being considered, and but I don't
Really?
know exactly under which
I'm coming.
circumstances and for when. So let's see.
And
Let's see how.
you, Carlos, I don't remember. Are you in any category that would get you?
I have no idea. So that's why
Yeah.
I'm wondering if so. The optimistic outlook was that to get like a very high percentage of people vaccinated before this summer. I think that's a bit too optimistic. So maybe after the summer or so will be my turn. I don't know. Let's see. Plus, there are like these different vaccines and they seem to work differently. So,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
some need, double dose. So one dose at one time, then another one a couple of weeks later, and others are sufficient to have one dose. So let's see what happens. But I think it's good that there are more vaccines becoming available. So at least they'll see which ones work better and get more people
volume.
vaccinated.
Yeah, like this we have in the U.S. Johnson & Johnson. They just got approved yesterday, and they already have 4 million shots ready to go. So they took a chance and they went ahead and, made the stuff, and so there's 4 million new shots hitting the market. So that's great.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, well, I'm going to start packing because I'm going to go.
So where are you, in Palm Springs or where?
I'm in Palm Springs, Cathedral City, which is right next door, and Anna Monica is in a town called Redlands.
Redlands, yeah.
Is that
An
close
And
by?
my brother right now is
west.
in the mountains.
1 hour away.
1 hour, yeah.
So you're still staying in California? You're not driving across the states as I heard you had planned originally, or?
Yeah,
Well, we did cover 2 states. We went to Arizona and Nevada.
And then you went back.
We went,
Yeah.
and then kind of this way.
Yeah, let me show you my great picture here.
Wow, is that the Grand
The
Canyon?
Yeah,
oh,
look
you're
at it.
covering yourself. Yes. Yeah, covering Jim.
Nice.
You
Jim
can't tell, but I'm
delivered his
leaning
uncle.
over. I'm leaning over
Yeah.
on the cliff, and I'm pouring the ashes of my uncle into the canyon.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
don't know if you can see it.
I took the photo from the distance. Yeah.
Nice, very nice picture. So you're staying in the West Coast, or?
I think I'm going to come back. I'm going to talk. I haven't even talked to Anna Monica about it. I think I'm going to come back to Spain for a couple months and maybe get it there. I mean, it sounds like I might even be able to get it there for más rápido, and partly because I mean, I'll tell you, Carlos, because, we're friends and you know a lot of my stuff, but I sold this messy property that I had, but I bought a couple small